Hello there. One thing that never seems to stop within the Teen Wolf fandom is questions about the mythology and the characters. I'm happy to answer those that I can within the comment section, but sometimes there are broader explanations required. Thus is the case with today's entries in my rapidly growing frequently asked questions playlist. I'll dig into the most confusing aspects of Sebastien Valet's journey to becoming the Beast of Gévaudan, and we'll get into why a lot of people seem to think Deucalion was actually physically afraid of Scott. If you enjoy these trips back to Beacon Hills, think about subscribing. Also, if you hit that bell, YouTube will literally reach into your phone and shake it to let you know when I've released a new video. The story of Sebastien Valet becoming the Beast is pretty straightforward to me. While fighting the British in North America during what we in the US call the French and Indian War, Sebastien and his friend Marcel were on the run. Wounded and near exhaustion, Sebastien collapses to the ground and drinks rainwater from the paw print of a wolf. Now, the next night, we see Sebastien writing a depressing letter to his sister, and he seems a little healthier than before. Sometime later, the pair is on the run again and take refuge in a small house with a woman. There, Sebastien becomes the Beast, kills the woman, and then kills all the British soldiers. The two of them then return home to France, where Sebastien starts stacking dead bodies like Legos in Marcel's basement. Here are the primary points that seem to confuse people. The paw print drink transformation. What made the print? Was it a special wolf's footprint? People also want to know why Sebastien became such a monster. Is he some kind of special werewolf? I think I can answer all those. Whether you'll be satisfied when I'm done explaining the canon, well, that's a whole nother matter. First, the transformation. We actually heard about this method of becoming a werewolf back at the end of season 3.
There's a lot of myths about how people can be turned into a werewolf. Usually a bite. There's one about rainwater.
Drinking rainwater out of the puddle of a werewolf's print.
And while Styles said werewolf, Sebastien made it clear that it was just a regular wolf.
We've heard the whole story of what happens when you drink rainwater from the paw print of a wolf.
We'll have to take his word for it since he was there, meaning that it's now established Teen Wolf lore that drinking rainwater from a regular wolf's paw print could result in a transformation. As to why he became the Beast instead of your run-of-the-mill fuzzy-faced werewolf, I asked showrunner and creator of the Sebastien Valet character all the way back in 2016. Now, at the time, I too was wondering if it was because of the paw print thing or if the Beast was some new form of werewolf altogether. Jeff Davis told me at the time, "We love obscure lore in Teen Wolf and almost nothing is written about it," meaning the paw print rainwater thing. This does not mean he's an entirely new type of werewolf, however. The Beast is definitely a very powerful werewolf, but that has more to do with just how purely evil Sebastien Valet was. Sebastien was born a monster. Jeff's explanation goes along with how I understand the story. Sebastien was already evil and a serial killer before he became a werewolf. It also goes along with my crazy werewolf equals big monster thesis, which I've expounded on endlessly in previous videos on this channel. I'm sure other aspects of this character will still confound and confuse. I might cover those in another FAQ video in the future, so be sure to let me know what you're interested in hearing about. Okay, now to be honest, this next question I get so much it's starting to kind of piss me off. There's apparently this widely held belief that Deucalion was literally scared of Scott in season 3. It's just not true to say that Deucalion was scared of Scott like a little kid is scared of the dark. It's more accurate to say that Deucalion thought of Scott the way conservatives think of socialists, okay? The mere idea of a true alpha is so alien to Deucalion's emotional status quo that it threatens his entire way of thinking. Reducing all these complex feelings to simple fear started with Braden.
But defiant, aren't you?
Because I know something. I know you're afraid of him,
Of a teenage boy.
of the man he'll become.
I'm aware of a certain potential threat.
Okay, so Braden believed that Deucalion feared Scott, but Deucalion would only admit to knowing of a potential threat. Key to this exchange is the fact that neither of them are talking about Scott as he was then. They're not even talking about if he becomes an alpha. They're literally talking about Scott years in the future. The man he will become. There's another exchange that's important to this aspect of the Deucalion-Scott dynamic.
He wants a true elf in his pack. He thinks it's you.
Then what is he waiting for? What does he want me to do?
He wants to make a killer out of you. That's what he does.
But if I kill someone, I can't be a true alpha, right?
You want the psychologist's perspective? He's an obsessive who both desires you and is threatened by you.
Morrill does a good job of explaining Deucalion's specific brand of crazy. He is desperate to possess the rare thing, but at the same time, he can't bear for the rare thing to exist. The latter part of that psychosis is the key to answering the overall fear question. Why does the idea of Scott as a true alpha fuck with Deucalion so much? My own diagnosis of Deucalion, based on how he formed the Alpha Pack and their subsequent reputation, is one of deep trauma leading to psychosis. The incident with Gerard and the subsequent physical trauma of blinding, paired with the betrayal of his beta trying to take advantage of his perceived weakness, created the Deucalion we met at the start of Season 3. The person that emerged from all that was psychotic in the classic sense that he's no longer in touch with reality. That's not quite right. Let's say he rejected the reality that he'd known before and made a new life around an entirely false reality that all power comes from violence and destruction. He quite literally became a zealot of his own religion. He convinced Ennis to join him by promising that Deucalion's way was the only way to gain enough power to stand toe-to-toe with the Hunters and to seek revenge. Ennis, in turn, brought Kali into the fold. She was apparently blinded by love for Ennis because her actions with Jennifer suggest she wasn't actually on board with Deucalion's whole philosophy. Then Deucalion began looking for unique alphas to add to the pack. He was thinking that this would somehow increase his power in a new way. He found the twins and in some unexplained manner figured out that they could merge. Now the boys had been abused in their pack, so they were totally on board with killing everybody once they had the power. But they too showed doubts in the truth of the Church of Deucalion. So now we come to Scott McCall, a bitten werewolf who somehow managed to defeat an insane and powerful alpha, stop a Canema, and bring Deucalion's nemesis, Gerard Argent, to his knees. Now, rumors spread quickly. The werewolf community in Northern California is apparently small enough for word to travel, and Deucalion set his sights on possessing Scott. But here's Deucalion's dilemma. A true alpha, which everyone agrees Scott had the potential to become, would be a powerful addition to his pack, but a true alpha would also prove definitively that violence and destruction are not the only way to gain power. In other words, Scott, by his mere existence, proves that everything Deucalion stands for is a lie. For Deucalion's worldview to stand, Scott must not become a true alpha and must only gain power the way Deucalion did, by killing. Any other outcome is unacceptable because it will shatter all of his delusions. This overwhelming desire to preserve this altered reality leads Deucalion to make stupid and self-destructive moves, like wasting all the time advantage he had before the lunar eclipse in a futile attempt to get Scott to kill Jennifer. It's not until the scales are literally lifted from his eyes that he sees the results of his life's work. Seeing Scott's elevation to alpha status through only moral superiority and willpower weakens Deucalion's resolve further. This, along with the mercy shown by Scott and Derek at the end, results in the Deucalion character that we actually came to view as a hero in later seasons. Of course, in a truly twisted turn of fandom, viewers at the time were vocally unhappy with this almost happy ending.
When the fans were angry about Scott and Derek not executing Deucalion at the end of season 3, I'm like, wait, hold on. Was I supposed to write a scene where they just straight up murder him?
and God, it's amazing to me. People still misunderstand the primary message of Teen Wolf. This show isn't about fights and monsters. It's about finding your pack and protecting friends and family. It's about showing the violent world around us that there's a better way of life through positive actions and intelligence instead of just brute strength. Oh boy, that got a little heavy for a second. Thanks for watching. Do the YouTube things with the buttons and comment and subscribe if you want more. I'll see you next time we go back to Beacon Hills.